Welcome back, everyone, to the FloTrack podcast. FloTrackPodcast@gmail.com is our email address. If you haven't subscribed yet to the FloTrack Podcast YouTube channel, you should do that. Subscribe to the FloTrack YouTube channel. We have a lot of stuff going up. We had This Week in Track, my show on Monday, followed by a Jakob Ingebrigtsen race breakdown. Gordon, did you drop your NCAA show today as well? Are you on schedule? Uh-oh. You don't look like he's on schedule, folks. What happened, Gordon?
I got tired. So at the conclusion of this episode, this live episode, I will film, edit, and post all before noon o'clock today. So it's going to be up
Ooh.
before noon.
Central
We'll be
Time. That's a
okay.
Gordon Mack guarantee. I'm going to put my ranking show up on Thursday, which has some movement based on some races that we saw yesterday, Gordon. So we'll get into that on today's show. We'll also talk about Trayvon Bromell. Is he going to race Tyreek Hill? There's been some conversation. And of course, we will touch on the story that is captivating the distance running world. I'm, of course, referring to Poopgate, which I didn't think I'd say that phrase in the history of my life, but here we are. First of all, though, the show, Gordon, sponsored by Hoka. Gordon is holding up the new Cielo X. Hoka's just introduced the most advanced spike shoe yet, the Cielo X, powered by the propulsion of carbon. You have the MD for mid-distance performance, the LD for long-distance performance. The website, Hoka.com, Hoka Faster Forward. Hoka Faster Forward. So I'm holding up these orange guys. Gordon has the white ones that he is showing you all the angles of once again. So we thank Hoka for sponsoring the pod today. Gordon, you still have the shoe next to the mic, which I like.
Yeah, I don't know where else. You're good at you have a better setup than me. Your shoe looks like normal size. My shoe is very big. It's like the size of my head. I guess it is normal at the shoe the size of your head, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm very zoomed in on my shoe. I'm zoomed in. But yeah, Hoka, get the spike. Get both. But don't wear both at the same time because that'll be weird. You might
Yeah.
tip over because you have a MD and an LD on your feet. It's going to mess
Yeah.
up your equilibrium. So buy a pair of each, not one of each.
Yeah. And you got the MD, and I got the LD right here. I'll show them up one more time here. Carbon in there. How all right. Let's start first with Torun World Indoor Tour. You and I watched this race together in this very booth yesterday. You came in because I said this one is for the number one ranking in the women's 60. Ewa Swoboda of Poland. She had been running well enough to where if she beat Elaine Thompson-Herah, she could claim the throne. Elaine Thompson-Herah won her first race in Birmingham, but looked a bit beatable, especially when you saw the heats in Torun, and Swoboda pulled off the upset in the final. Thompson-Herah doesn't have enough room to catch her and cannot catch Swoboda after that fast start. So Swoboda gets the win, quick time. She is the person to beat now in the world in the 60, in part because Elaine Thompson-Herah is not going to run World Indoors, but Swoboda has now run 7 flat, 7:03, 7:04, and 7:06 this season. Gordon, your reaction to that race?
Very impressed. Elaine Thompson-Herah almost was able to get back and from because basically Sabona was in the lead the entire time. Like Thompson never had the lead. I thought there might have been if there were 20 more meters, you think Elaine Thompson-Herah pulls it off, but this is something where is unique about indoors is that there's unique athletes who are just really good at indoor only events, which is like a 60. Because you look at
Mm-hmm.
her 100-meter times, she's only run like 11:1 or 11:0 high.
Mm-hmm.
She's never broken
Yeah.
11 seconds in 100, and she just beat a 10:5 woman. Like, that doesn't make
Yeah.
sense on paper. Like, how can someone who can't break 11 seconds just like demolish one of the fastest people in the world all time? And it happens because it's only 60 meters. And hey, she's really good at this event. And I think it sets her up well to potentially win her first ever global gold. And it's looking good. She's the heavy favorite now because are you reporting
Yeah.
that Elaine Thompson-Herah is not doing worlds? Is that like an official? thing?
I'm reporting based on her social media post that said
Okay.
"See ya outdoors."
See you
And
outdoors.
when
Okay.
someone says "See ya outdoors," sometimes they do it after one race indoors, sometimes they do it after two, sometimes three. But when you get the "See ya outdoors," that means it is over. And I don't know if her decision was influenced by this race or if that was her plan all along. If the world record was the goal, she came up short from that this year. Obviously, in her two meets, she was never really close to getting that mark from Privalova. So I think you're right. This is Swoboda's to lose at this point. There's only a couple weeks until World Indoor Championships. Also sets up well for the Americans right now too. Whichever two Americans qualify, they're in good position. You could throw Brianna Williams of Jamaica in there as someone who's run really well this year too, because Thompson Herah not being there. I think if she did run World Indoors, um, people wouldn't count her out because they say, all right, she lost, but it was pretty close there. She has run 10-5, get another couple races under her belt, get a little bit better start, and she'll be good to go. But I guess when it comes to Thompson Herah, do you take anything from these two meets in terms of what it means for what she can do outdoors?
Not really. I think she just isn't all in on indoors. I think um, she's not building her season around peaking for indoors, and I think she probably was kind of, hey, if this goes well, I'll continue, and I'll maybe if I can
Yeah.
stride my way to another global medal, a gold, I'll do it. But she clearly can't stride her way because there's someone like Sabota in her way who is not just striding, but sprinting incredibly fast times, running low sevens, multiple races in a row. And it's
Yeah.
like, all right, she's like, all right, I'm going to stay away from this. I'm going to let her take off and potentially break 7 seconds, and I'll just focus on outdoors. I do want to say this though. The year's 2022. Twitter has
Yeah.
been around for a decade, right? Over a decade. How do people still not know how to use Twitter? Look at Elaine Thompson's raw tweet. Do they not know how hashtags work? That you need to put a space between the hashtags
Oh, you got to put the
for them
space.
to
Yeah.
actually link? Put Cole, put this up on the screen if you're there.
Well,
Does she not know how
maybe
to
she
use a
posted it
hashtag?
quickly after the race. Yeah. Well, she got the
It's
sponsor
just
tag in there. I think that's the most important thing.
yeah.
So
It's
she
just
just don't
every
forget the
time
sponsor tag.
This is
I
crazy
see
coming from
someone
Gordon that he thinks someone doesn't
use.
know how to use Twitter. That's crazy.
I know how to use Twitter. It's just interesting that someone doesn't know how to use a hashtag because
Gordon finally
she's an
found a
intelligent
tweet he could
woman.
understand.
She knows to put space. She should know to put a space between the hashtags, or else it doesn't work. Anyway,
This is
I
Gordon.
digress.
Read the emojis literally, Gordon.
Anyway,
Clapping emojis.
uh,
Listen,
that's just a little thing that
so
bothers me.
you're not so
That
you're
and that
not
her she's not running worlds.
yeah, you're not bothered by the fact that she's running worlds is what I was gonna say. I would like to see it because then we could have a little back and forth and it would be
Yeah,
really fun to see how she comes back from it. But I thought, hey, if she runs the world record, I thought she could do it because she run 10:54. In retrospect, so much of that is the second half of a race, and we didn't know what sort of shape she was going to come out in. I think if she had run the world record, I think it would have put everything on the table for outdoors in terms of running 10:4. That still could be the case, but I think it's less of a certainty now versus before. But again, it's indoor season, it's two meets. You don't want to take too much from it. Because on the flip side of things, you look at Swoboda, as you mentioned, she's run fast before indoors, never this fast, but she's never even broken 11 seconds. So what does this mean for Swoboda? Like, are we going to see her finish well in Diamond Leagues? Are we going to see her make a 100-meter final? Like, that's not even guaranteed. And you go and you look at the past list of champions or people who have just been standout performers in the 60 on the men's and the women's side. Yeah, there's some big names there, but there's also some people who completely were non-factors during outdoor season.
yeah. Her career is very perplexing. Like you would not pick her out of the hat as the first one to beat Elaine Thompson Herah post her incredible Olympic double, but she
Yeah.
is, and man, she's looking good out there. She's run 7 flat. She's run 7.0 multiple times, and her tattoo game is on point. I mean,
Mhm.
You can't. What do you think of her tattoo game? Do you think it's very
I
intimidating?
mean,
It's
the
very
gun on
like
the
Eastern
bicep is a
European.
choice. The gun on the
Do you have any
bicep is a
photos?
choice. I don't know. Oh, well, speaking of photos, you know that she hasn't been a factor because look at the photo that World Athletics uses in her profile. You and I got a kick out of this yesterday when we were trying to look up her history. Go all the way to the top here. That's from 2014 World Juniors. They have an 8-year-old photo that they're doing for her profile. Now, it's not the worst thing to use old photos, but it just goes to show you that she hasn't really been in the mix recently. Yeah, she's competed well in the European circuit, run some fast 60-meter times. For her, the 60 makes sense. She's a great starter, and we saw the unorthodox start before, where her foot came off the blocks and then came back down. Whatever she's doing works, and if you're a great starter, that's all that matters in the 60. I mean, you need to be able to finish the race a little bit, but that's the power move in the 60 that people don't. Even someone like Thompson Hurrah, who we know how good her top end speed is, they have a difficult time beating someone who's just a pure starter, which is on the men's side what makes Coleman so good because he has the start and then he has that second part of his race as well too, which is why he's a world record holder.
I also think her like black nail polish is very intimidating. Like the black on white is very like, whew, it's a very like, you don't mess with me. I don't know. It's good for a sprinter, right? You got to have that vibe of intense tenacity and like, don't mess with me. I'm going to take you down. Sprinting has that little. You need a little bit of spark, and she definitely is doing a good job at like not playing the role, but just like be look. I don't know. It's a very good look for a sprinter. I don't know. I enjoyed it. I know it has nothing to do with the actual training and the actual skill and the talent of a runner going from one place to another. But, you can't say that the tattoos aren't a thing you're going to look at and be like, whoa, that's pretty badass. That's all I got to say.
Are those bats on her arm?
I think it's the bat or a bird. I don't know. Looks like beetles, maybe? I don't know. What's the one on her thigh? Is that like a person's head?
When you go to a track meet, when you're in the media area of a track meet and someone walks through, the first question that a lot of journalists ask, especially if they're not used to covering track, is like, explain your tattoos. It's just like a general question that gets asked at every single track meet. And if someone has a lot of tattoos, they'll sit there for, depending on how talkative they are, several minutes explaining, and this one's this, and this one means that, and this one means that. So I don't know if she's had one of those interviews yet. She keeps running like this, obviously. That'll happen. You'll get the full debrief on every single one of them. Yeah, I just think she's the favorite for World Indoors. What does that mean for outdoors? We don't know. Elaine Thompson-Raw not running indoors anymore, didn't get the world record. What does that mean for outdoors? I don't think it puts her in that bad of a position. If anything, you're thinking, well, she at least got through this season healthy, and she's had injury issues in the past, and now she's fine. But I also think, though, we might need to tamp down our expectations for what the 100 looks like this year because the 100 was so good last year on the women's side. It may not be that fast. It could still be really great, but it may not be as fast as it was in 2021. But too early to call that, I think.
I mean, I also think it's kind of interesting. I mean, typically, I don't know how to explain it, but like typically, I'm going to say it out. I think it's kind of interesting that we might have never mind. I'll bring it up after the pod. I won't even bring it up. I take it back. Let's talk about the next topic.
Next topic. Don't even know where you're going with that.
Yeah.
Well, you can talk about this topic. This is a topic you can talk about because you're an expert in the state of Arizona and the tracks that are located within. Well, you've been to them. You've been to these tracks.
Okay.
Poopgate.
Expert. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
You're an expert. You've been to these places. You've been to Flagstaff. You've been to Sedona. Explain to people what's going on with Poopgate.
Okay. So Sam Parsons, friend of the pod. He's never been on the pod, but I'm just going to say friend of the pod. It's fun to say that phrase, friend of the pod. He tweeted out about a day ago, I guess a day ago. Wait, this story of why pro runners and flag are banned from using Sedona High School track for training right now cannot be real. Crying emoji. Okay, so before we get into this, what is the Sedona High School track? The Sedona High School track is a track that's like a 40-minute drive from Flagstaff. And it's a way for track athletes who train in Flagstaff to drop down in altitude to do speed sessions. So it's at 4,000 feet elevation. But if you're at Flag, where you're at 7,000 feet, it's a way to quickly go 3,000 feet down in a short period of time, which is a 40-minute drive, of which is a beautiful drive, by the way. The drive from Flag to Sedona, very beautiful. Sedona is a beautiful place, lots of hiking trails. If you're ever in Southwest Arizona, you should go to Sedona and Flag. So, and because this track is so close to Flag and at a good elevation and a easy drive, pro runners over the past multiple years have slowly trickled into coming and training on this track. Now, this track is really predominantly used by two coaches and or agents. You have the NAZ Elite team, which is Ben Rosario, and Stephen Haas, who's an agent, but also a friend of the running community, who kind of brings in the miscellaneous athletes, ones who are, his actual athletes, and then also like friends of athletes, because athletes like training with other athletes who aren't their training partners, because you're not going to say, hey, Mo Farah, work out separately from me. If you can hop into a Mo Farah workout, you're going to hop into a Mo Farah workout, right? They benefit from working with each other. King Chez, obviously Edward Cheserek trains there. We did a bunch of like workout Wednesdays in Sedona with Edward Cheserek. So yeah, the who's who of running come to Sedona. So that's what this track is. It's been used a lot, mainly by NAZ Elite and by Stephen Haas's Total Sports people and friends. However, it looks like the fun is up. The gig is up for these pro runners, because apparently someone, we don't know who it is yet. We're going to figure it out on the pod. That's the goal of this pod, to find out who the pooper is. Certain McCurdy Train tweeted out the following. They're not sure if it's, they said this is 100% real. A certain professional team came to town and showed no respect. Their quotes, not mine. The athletes that live here are furious. This is a local community, and they essentially ruined the relationship with the high school. Basically saying, speaking to a school official and getting the full word directly, I hope they ban everyone from using the track until they see fit. Professional athletes do not take priority over kids. Professional athletes do not have a right to use the track during school. Professional athletes do not have the right to defecate on school property. Professional athletes do not have a right to go into the school during school hours. This wasn't one team. This is multiple incidents. So basically they're saying one of the athletes, or more than one of the athletes, pooped on the track, and one or more went inside the school during school hours. I'm guessing they went in school during school hours to try to avoid pooping on the track because they were looking for a bathroom. And then when they couldn't find the bathroom in the school, they went out and just pooped on the track. Now, pooping on the track, it's not like they pooped in the center of like the shot put pit. They pooped probably around a bush that's near the track, right? That's probably what happened. And when you're training and you got to poop, you got to poop. So looking at the setup of this track, I can see how this happened, because there is no public bathroom near the track. There is a bathroom that is near the track, but sometimes it's locked. Often it's locked, actually. So a lot of times these athletes are like, what am I going to do, right? Now, if it's a pee, if you have to pee publicly, a lot of people don't even notice that, because pee disappears when you put it into a bush. Just pee around the corner. People pee on trees all the time, and no one says anything. But when it's up number 2, then we have a situation. A little different. So people have been kind of tweeting back and forth more about this story and more about the poop culture at this track. Someone tweeted out that there was a time when there was construction going on and there were actual porta potties near the track, so people were able to poop in said porta potty. And basically, this always has been an issue. How do you handle an influx of multiple athletes, pro athletes, who just all need a poop?
Yeah.
Like, how do you deal with this? There's a lot of what's the sewage situation for these pro athletes? And it looks like they came to a breaking point where too many were pooping where they weren't supposed to be pooping. And now we're here. I just like saying the word poop on the
Well,
podcast. I'm trying to use that word as much as possible.
well, it's important to look at the training options available to pro athletes. So once you turn professional, maybe you're still with your college coach and you're a volunteer assistant and you're able to use your college facility. Maybe you live in a community where there's a track that's good and it's available to the public. But if you don't fit into one of those two categories, you're at the whims of high schools or other public entities that you're a guest when you come to their track. I mean, I'm looking at some of these shots and it's kind of remarkable. These shots of that you took when you went down to Sedona, where it's so many of the best runners in the world working out on a high school track in Arizona. Like, it's pretty wild, but it's a great facility, as you mentioned, and there's just not many facilities that are available to professional athletes. Now, when you're doing it at high school, though, there's obviously huge complications because the high school needs the facility after school. The high school cannot open up their school and have a bunch of people who do not attend the school, do not work at the school, going through the halls and using the bathrooms. I'm trying to think of a similar situation in another sport, and it's like kind of hard to find a comp. Now during the summer, when it's not being used as frequently, would that make it easier? Yeah, absolutely. But even bringing in things like porta potties, well, it's tough because what do you do? Bring in a porta potty and then roll it out when you guys are done? Like every day, someone's job is to bring in a porta potty because you're not just going to leave it out there for after school for when the high schoolers use the facilities. And the whole point of this structure is to serve the high schoolers, right? As I mentioned, the runners are a guest in the scenario. So yeah, just the lack of tracks puts them in this position. And I'm guessing there's a lack of awareness, lack of respect with the groups that are being referred to of just knowing where it is that you're training. And this is not like the Olympic training facility. This is not even a college. This is a high school. And that original tweet that we posted where it just said there were multiple incidences, I'm guessing it just becomes too much of a hassle. And they're just like, well, why are we doing this anyway if the groups using it aren't going to respect it? And then you get the situation where it's like they don't even want to spend the time of saying like, okay, well, this group was good. This group was followed the rules. This group didn't. They're just going to say, forget all of it and toss it out.
Yeah. And as a result, there are a lot of athletes who depend on this track who are being the baby
Yeah.
that's being tossed out with the bathwater, right? So
Yeah.
I'm sure for some people it's funny who don't live in Flag, but for people who do live in Flag, it's not funny because this is their livelihood, literally. They
Yeah.
needed this track for their livelihood, and now they don't know what they're going to do. You can see Rory Linkletter tweeted out, I feel like non-Flag staff-based pros just need to sit this one out. Our suffering is not your coffee talk.
Mm.
So that's
Mm.
a subtle dig at a podcast called Coffee Talk with Morgan McDonald, who he then retweeted. He got one of the retweets, which is kind of interesting. I'm sure maybe this is an inside job. Maybe this is someone from another popular training city who infiltrated
Mm.
Flagstaff. Hey, go take a shit on their track, get them kicked off their track, and force them to come train over here in Colorado. Like that could be happening. I mean,
That is
see
not a
this.
theory. Yes. That is not a theory that I've seen floated. David Ribbich clarified that the Brooks Beast train in Albuquerque, but for some odd reason, I think we'll be blamed for the poop. Everybody was weighing in the distance. This was really the talk of the distance running community yesterday. People lobbying different theories. Hey, which groups were where? Who ran what? Nikki Hiltz posted, if you saw me in Sedona wearing this sweatshirt, no, you didn't. And you can look at what it says. I pooped today, which is great. Everybody, the hashtag Poopgate is being used far and
So
wide on on the internet. I mean, there's just a lot, and there's just a lot of people like going back through and seeing who trained at what time on the track to try to figure out who the perpetrator was. Because everyone's like, oh, Bowerman was just there. But what you're saying is true. It's like everybody's been there.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, but
right? I mean,
everyone paper trails are going to be important here. You know, if you were injured
Yeah,
during this week, it's a good sign because then you won't be held accountable for your poop. But we know
that's
Bowerman
true.
posted a Sedona tweet. Obviously, Nikki Hill has a shirt that says "I pooped," but she's denying culpability. Brooks Beast said they were in Albuquerque. Uh, Molly Seidel, who lives and trains in Flagstaff, did an eye
Ooh,
emoji. Athletics Canada. Now, is
okay.
this Molly with inside information that it could be a Canadian athlete, or
Hmm.
is she trying to start a riff with our neighbors up north? You know, this could be,
Yeah.
a little bit of like, hey, I don't want an American to get it. I want a Canadian to get the blame because only Canadians poop
Oh,
apparently. But now we do have
man.
posts of Canadians in Sedona.
Hmm.
Charles Thibodeau, who is a
Yeah.
great miler. He's a 1500-meter guy. He was posted in Sedona. Thomas Fafard, I can't read these names quick enough. He was in Sedona. John Gay was in Sedona. So who would have
Hmm.
thought that these personal selfie running photos could become
Yeah.
the incriminating smoking gun of the poop? Jacob Thomas tweeted out, Poopgate Twitter
Thompson.
is getting out of control when my sister, who lives 26 hours away and knows nothing about running, texts me to ask what happened at the Sedona track. It's true.
You're bringing up more questions than answers because we had like a list. It's like, oh, this person says this person says that, but then you're coming up with like different motives. You're kind of blowing my mind here about the misdirection that could be taking place here. Do you think we'll
This
ever
is what
know?
I think this is what needs to happen. I think if the runners want to get the track back, they need to start
Oh, they
posting
have to.
video photos of of themselves with their dogs. And instead of trying to point who done it, who like it was you, it wasn't me, it wasn't me. We need to see post a lot of dog photos on the internet, and then
Yeah.
eventually the administrators at the Sedona High School track would be like, "Oh, it was just a dog poop. That's all it was. It was just dog poop." And
I thought
therefore,
you were saying they need to flip on everybody.
no, they don't need to
I
flip on
thought you
each
were
other.
saying
They
the
need to all
old.
put it. They all
Okay.
need to blame their dogs. We need to let the dog take the fall, because if they make the dog take the fall, everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, it's okay. You're cute. It's okay. You can poop whenever you want. There's no rules." But
Yeah.
if you're a professional athlete, you're not allowed to poop whenever you want. There's rules that you have to sign up
Yeah.
for. I
What
mean,
if? Give me this scenario. This is a
okay,
scenario. Let's just Molly Seidel, for example. Let's just say we don't have any more information about Poopgate. We have the same amount of info that we do now that we do in 2028. Molly Seidel goes on to win the Olympic marathon in 2028. First question at the press conference, post
who
gold
done it?
medal. Molly, who did it? Who pooped in Sedona?
Do you think we're
Number
gonna
one, do
have
you
like
think she'd
a?
get the joke? Right.
She'll get the joke. Do you think we'll have like a Lance Armstrong sit down with Oprah style of a confession? Like, it was me. I I was the pooper this whole time.
Yeah. What did
Here's the question: do you
when
think
when
the
when those
pooper
guys were
has a gold medal?
no, no,
Okay,
I don't think that's true. Um,
this is
I mean, someone should
ano-
do some clues though. Someone should like
okay.
offer up some Easter eggs here to try to
So
get us a little more info.
Travis did point out Molly's previous tweet was from October 11th, 2021. And
Mhm.
then she came on Twitter to post just at Athletics Canada. So
Yeah,
she's not just sitting
she
on her
feels
phone
strongly.
constantly tweeting. The fact that she
Hmm.
was like
Hmm.
this, she clearly takes her tweets seriously because she doesn't post them as often. And if she
Yeah.
felt the need to tweet Athletics Canada, I think. But here's the thing: how does she know it was Athletics Canada? Because was she present during the pooping? Like, did she witness this?
Well, that's what
Is she a reliable witness? Can we put her on the stand?
that's what that's what needs to be figured out. And again, that's why I think if we don't get any information until 2028, that's when we do the court. Because at that point, the statute of limitations is run out. Per my knowledge of this this issue, so maybe she'll be free to give some more information. Yeah, it's a small community. I'm sure somebody told somebody. Now, some information can get misconstrued when you're playing a game of telephone like that. But you know how these groups and teams and stuff operate. A lot of people know each other. So they probably I just want to know how the word first got out and then now it has to spread because someone had to be the bearer of bad news. And I
Yeah.
don't know if there's a group text with all these elite groups or if it's just like one by one, but they're saying, hey, there someone pooped on the track, so we can't use that facility anymore. And someone's trying to get ready for the best season of their career, and they're like, "Wait, what? I can't use the track because why?" That's insane.
So 2 days ago, Molly posted on Instagram, find yourself a nutrition sponsor that sends a pacer along with the product. And then she tweeted,
You're just
she
reading
said,
ads now, Gordon.
been having a ton of fun training with this guy who's part of the Merten US team living here in Flag. Not only is he a great workout partner, but he also keeps me fully stocked with hydrogel. Is
Why
this
are you just reading the
a,
ad?
I don't know. Well, I don't why this was
He's just
posted.
saying
I
that
don't know.
she's just saying that
Oh,
she posted 2 days ago. But like
I'm
Instagram's not
sorry.
the spot for that. Your
Yeah.
Instagram's not the spot for that. The spot for it is Twitter with the tagging. And I think you brought up a good point that she's not on that often. So maybe that tells us that that she's confident in her prediction. All right. I mean if people have,
Also,
you know,
there's a
theories,
lesson
you
you
can
learn from
email us.
this. If you need a poop, just don't poop at Sedona because confession alert,
Don't
I
don't do it at a
have pooped.
school.
I have pooped next to a track during my running days. It was a school's
Okay.
track. It was a college's track. It wasn't my own college. I won't say the college out loud, but there is a college out there that has my poop next to it. I felt bad at the time, but I was a young 19-year-old just needing to go to the bathroom, and it was the summer, and I was training. I just had to do it. People, I think it's kind of
It's tough,
interesting
man.
how we don't think about the when you're in a temporary space and it's not like where you go a lot and you feel like when people do things like on the side of the road, like you throw up on the side of the road, you're not really thinking about, you never got to see that throw up again because it's whatever, it's on the side of the road. But someone might that might be someone's neighborhood and they just live there and they have to walk by a little bit of throw up until the rain comes and cleans it away. I think the problem is it had to have been someone who treats Sedona like it was a temporary, I'm only here for a day or two and then I'm out, or a week or two and I'm out.
Mhm.
So I think the result was newcomers coming to Flag and not recognizing that this was
Can you
someone's home.
Can you pull up that shot again of the track, the aerial shot of the track? Do we still got Travis on here?
I don't think we have
Maybe we don't
Travis
have
anymore.
Travis anymore. Okay. Isn't there like a ginormous desert behind them?
No, I mean it's there's not no. You have to drive to the desert to poop in the desert, but it's a town, but you have
Well,
to
I know
drive.
that, but I'm just
It's
saying.
like there's like a field. There's
I'm
like a
look.
soccer field in the backdrop.
Okay. I'm just thinking if it really was an emergency, just go a half mile in the other direction. But if you're saying there's no spot there, just find a fast food restaurant or something, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's way easier ways to do this than what they did. So, all right. Tyreek Hill challenged everybody to a race. Romel said, okay, let's do it. Do you think we're any closer to this happening, Gordon?
It's not going to happen. This is talked about all the time on the internet, or like NFL versus track versus NFL. This is only happening because of boredom. Of like it's fun to like talk shit on the internet. But the
Mhm.
idea of someone getting onto a plane, putting on the spikes, training, doing it, it's just not going to happen. I think uh what's his name? Tyreek Hill is just bored. It's the off season. There's nothing to do. The draft isn't for another 2 months. Off-season training isn't until late summer. So he's going to tweet, I'm faster than you. It's fun to tweet out. Now, Bromell is going to be like, don't, you know. So he tweeted out, I'm about to race everybody that called me out. Let's go. I think he's just trying to have some fun on the internet. And I think Bromell is taking it seriously because he's sick of, you know, national media treating Tyreek like he's the
Mhm.
next coming of Usain Bolt, when in reality, there's a lot of talented track athletes. And so Bromel's going to have
Yeah.
some fun. Like, yeah, I'll do it. I'll put up money and all this stuff. Let's do it. Let's make this an event. Let's go to the New Balance track because that opens up in like a month or two and make this whole thing. But I think Tyreek Hill's going to be like, nah, I'm good. Like, I think that's the problem. Like, the track athletes are like, they're not really set. Like, the NFL players can just talk and that's all they need to do. But the track athletes are going to be like, are itching for the talk to end by like actually showing up and racing. Because Bromell would smoke Tyreek.
Right.
He would smoke him. There's no question about that. Tyreek is good.
Yeah.
Tyreek would smoke a lot of people. Tyreek would smoke a lot of, I think, professional track athletes. But he's not smoking Trayvon freaking Bromell. Like, that's not happening.
Well, it depends how you define. It depends how you define professional track athletes, because I don't think he's running under like 10-1-5 right now. So you could be
But
pro
even if it was,
and run
yeah.
slow in that. But I mean, he's beaten him. He's beaten him before. He hasn't actually lost. I mean, look at the high school marks and look at when they raced it at Big 12s. He's actually 5-0 against Bromell. Now, Bromel's a year younger, and that was a long time ago. Bromell is much quicker. I get why Hill wants to race Bolt because it's a bigger name and it would mean more to him. But right now, Trayvon Bromell is a lot faster than Usain Bolt is, and it's not particularly close. But again, it's the name. He wants it to beat someone with a bigger name, and also he knows the race would be easier. So that would be an everything to lose, nothing to gain type of setup for Tyreek Hill. So I get why he does it. But Bromell's putting money down. Bromell says, "Let's do it." Like, what do you say, 10K, 20K,
Yeah.
something like that? And
I mean, I would watch it. I would want it to happen,
Yeah.
but I just don't think the way professional NFL players are going to be like that. They're not going to. It's more fun to tweet out 140 characters than it is actually get on a plane and do the whole thing and take the time. I
Yeah.
do know there was a quote from DK Metcalf like a week or two ago. He was being interviewed, and he said that he wants to make the next Olympics. And the interviewer followed up by being like, are you just saying that, or do you like actually want to train and actually try to make the next Olympics? He's like, no, I'm actually going to train. I'm going to actually put in the work, and I want to make the 2024 team. Which one is kind of funny because what professional track athlete like thinks about the global championship that is 3 years away? Like, there's multiple chances to win global titles, 2022, 2023, and then 2024. But that's just DK not really caring about the actual sport, just caring about the Olympic name. But yeah, DK Metcalf said he wants to make the Olympics, and which would probably be, if he were to make the Olympics after what you ran 10.3 last year or 2 years ago. If he were to make the Olympics, that would be the most impressive thing I've ever seen a human athlete do. For a guy run 10.3 and not be trained to be a sprinter, and then 3 years later, you're running 9.8 and making the Olympics. Because that's what you're going to have to run. You're going to have to run 9.8 to make the Olympics in the U.S.
Yeah. I got more respect. I got respect for him for actually running the race. So you give him a little bit more credibility versus all the other football guys. But yeah, I mean, he's 24 years old, ran 10.3. So in 2024, he'll be 27 and running the times required. Could he make it interesting? Maybe, but that would probably involve giving up football and committing to track full time. And why would he do that? It's not going to happen on the side. Someone like Hill, or going back farther in track history, like a Trindon Holiday, you go farther back in history, you got some other folks there, could do both, right? But Metcalf isn't at that level. He's obviously very fast, but he would need to put football aside in order to get that done, or make it interesting to improve on that 10.3. Because right now, 10.3 is not going to move the needle, not going to get you into the meet. So, yeah, I saw that quote too. Some other results we didn't touch on earlier when we talked about Torun with Thompson, Haran, Swoboda. Eli Hall won the 60. Sagai almost broke her own 1500-meter record, and then there's an exciting men's 3K, which was basically like the replay from the previous men's 3K with Wale, Barrega, Gurma et al. Eli Hall, though, getting the win. Pretty solid time for him, too. What'd you think of his race?
Yeah, he almost had a false start, so he almost didn't make it to the actual race. And I think because he had the almost false start, he ended up having a bad start in the actual race because you could tell like he probably was overly conservative because he didn't want to
Yeah.
get disqualified, and that put him in a hole after the first 5 or 10 meters. And he was able to make a
Yeah.
comeback and eke out a win in 6:55. Do you think
53.
he could? Oh,
53.
53. Sorry,
Give him his
53.
hundreds. Give him his hundreds. Come on. Yeah.
Sorry. 6:53. All right, 6:53. Who you taking to be second place behind Christian Coleman at USA's? Is it
That's a great
yeah?
That's a great
Yeah,
question.
Baker. Lyles isn't doing it, right? Lyles is out.
Correct.
So you have Baker, Bracy, Eli Hall. I guess it's really between. Is it going to be between Eli Hall and Baker? Is that basically the matchup?
Cravant Charleston
Devon Charleston.
just ran
Okay.
52. Just ran 6:52. Carnes has run fast this year. I mean, Bracy, have we seen him? I don't think we've seen him, correct?
Bracy might be a scratch. So
He's still listed on there. But I don't think we've seen him. I know he scratched Melrose. I don't think we've seen him since then. Eli Hall is very close to making that team. Eli Hall could make that team because that list is pretty short when you look at it. And then if you take out, I mean, what do you need to have, sub 660? Although is Eli Hall even entered now that I'm looking at it? Eli Hall's not even on the list, Gordon.
oh, he's not. Oh,
No.
Eli Hall's not in. Man, no one wants to go to Worlds.
No. Yeah. So this got me thinking too. Talk about in the ranking show as well too. If you go through event by event, how many of those events have a good one-on-one matchup? Because now with Thompson Herron not running, like Swoboda versus Thompson Herron, I think would have qualified after this weekend. That'd have been a good one-on-one matchup.
Yeah.
But then you just go up through the women's races. Like women's 4, obviously, is not going to have a lot of the big names. Women's 8, you want Hodgkinson v. Mo. You're not getting it. 15, Sagai being there is cool. But you want Muir or Hassan or Kipyegon in there too. Ditto for the 3,000. You want those big names. They're not in there. Women's hurdles, Camacho Quinn's not running. Doesn't look like. So, and then you go on the men's side of things. You run through all the events. Let's go from the top down. 60 hurdles, Grant. He doesn't have a rival right now. So that's a walkover. 3,000 and 1,500. There's no, if Ingebrigtsen runs, but you want Ingebrigtsen Cherry. 800. Yeah. I guess if Brazier qualifies, but then it becomes Brazier versus the field. 400, nothing. It really is the men's 60. It really is Coleman versus Jacobs as the only race where we're getting a true meaningful head-to-head, I think. Now, some others could bear out and look significant later on, but Coleman and Jacobs is the one that I've had circled all year, and it looks like it's going to be the one that holds up.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is probably the most impactful, consequential win-loss for the top two. Everyone else is like a loss or a win doesn't really mean as much. But yeah. And that'll be the most watched event. I'll be looking forward to seeing the 2019 champ versus the 2021 champ. It'll be interesting.
Yeah. It should be a good one. All right. Anything else from Torun? Or anything else from your rankings you want to say? I know you haven't recorded the show yet, but any hints on what's going to happen? Any teasers?
Ooh, some teasers of my rankings. I'm going to look at them right now. I can kind of just tell you. So right now, Georgia men and North Carolina A&T are basically the top two teams on the men's side. Arkansas and Texas are in the mix, but Texas kind of fell off. Arkansas moved in, but A&T and Georgia are going to be the true 1-2. I think that we're going to see throughout the meet. And then I've been flipping them back and forth, but Florida women are now back up in top over the Texas women. I did hear rumors that what's her name? Tyra Giddens won't be doing the pentathlon or isn't planning on doing the pentathlon. Now, things could change, right? They have Big 12s. She could still do it there. But if that's true, Texas won't be able to get points out of her in that event, which helps Florida because they obviously have Anna Hall and company. So right now, Florida women
Yeah.
have a substantial lead over Texas women. But you could kind of say it's a dual meet between Florida and Texas on the women's side and North Carolina, A&T, and Georgia on the men's side. I do think, though, I think this next episode that I'm going to record after this podcast, I am interested to kind of figure out how to rank the men's 3K. Do you want to look at my rankings right now, Kevin? And you can tell me if you think
Are
my
they up?
men's 3K rankings are good, bad, okay, could be
Let
better,
me
could
see.
be worse.
Let me
Get
see.
the rankings up.
All right. You want the men or the women?
Men.
Men. Okay. Okay. Nagus, Nur, Beetlescombe, Kyoko, Kemboy, Herrera, Kiptu, Lopez, Segura.
What do you think about that? Now, notable people not in there is Nico Young because he hasn't qualified yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what are your thoughts on that order?
Whoa, shoot. Sorry. I would have Beetlescombe ahead of Nur, but Nagus number 1 makes sense. And
Why
then
would you have
everything else
Beatles come
is.
ahead? Why would you have Beatles come ahead of Nur?
Oh, the 352.
But what about Nur's 740?
I mean, Beetlescombe's running fast 3K too. So
743.
I think,
3 seconds slower.
yeah. Yeah. The 352 is what's the
Okay.
deciding factor here. Sorry, my microphone won't cooperate. What did you struggle with? Just that spot or the other ones?
I didn't struggle after the top 3. It was kind of known Beatles, Nur, and Nagoose. I kind of struggled with like who is going to finish 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 because Kyoko and Kemboy, they can have on and off races. Herrera has
Yeah.
on and off. Kiptu, I put like down in 7th. Could Kiptu go from like Kiptu could win it, right? All of a sudden Kiptu's like, I'm
Yeah.
on and I can win. So I just had trouble with like kind of sorting out the add-ons after the top 3. And also the more and more I was
Yeah.
looking at this event and kind of seeing how the mile's going to play out. I think a lot of good milers are going to opt for the DMR. Beetlescombe could become potentially a double
Yeah.
champion. Imagine if Beetlescombe goes out and wins the mile and then comes back and wins the 3K. And it's like Beetlescombe's meet. Like that is a legit possibility. And I was just thinking about that when putting together rankings. That Morgan Beetlescombe might pull off like a Cole Hawker-esque type indoor.
I think he's going to get at least one. I think he's too good to not get one title in Birmingham. I don't blame you, though, for being confused by these rankings because with the times being so fast, you don't really know what to trust. Because you're looking at this mark, you're like, oh, such and such ran this mark, but then you can just pull up another guy who you don't even have in your top 8 probably, who only ran a second or 2 slower. And you're like, well, wait a minute. What does that mean? Does that mean that this time doesn't matter at all? Well, no, it can't mean nothing, but maybe it doesn't mean as much as it used to. So the top 3, I think, are good because those guys have a lot of championship experience. And same with Kyoko and Kemboy. Like this honestly would not surprise me as a top 8.
There you go. Not surprise you. I love that as a reaction to my rankings. These rankings would not surprise me. That's a good one.
Let me just say this though. Before the season, would I be surprised with Kip 2 being that low? Yes. But given the events of the season and how fast everybody's run, doesn't surprise me. Here's what's going to happen though. Let's not overcomplicate this.
Okay.
Kip 2 is going to go out crazy fast, right? They're going to go back to their bread and butter. They're not going to play around. And this race is going to be ridiculously quick. So will he be able to hold on? That's going to be tough. Is he going to fall all the way down to, what do you have him in, 7th? Maybe not, because maybe the pace just breaks the entire field. And Nagus is able to stick with him and kick past him, but he sticks around in the top 2 or 3. That could be a likely outcome too.
Yeah. And there's always people that you can rank where they're either going to finish like top 3 or 15th. Like
Yeah,
there's some
yeah,
people who aren't going to fight for a 7th or 6th. Like they're just only going to
yeah,
fight for the win, or they're going to be like, I'm done and jogging and finish 14th to 16th. So it's always a thing
yeah.
to think about as well.
Yep.
So
No, I totally agree with that. But I think this year will be a test of just, all right, how much weight can we put into the times? Because it's going to be fun to look afterwards and say, man, this man or woman who got 14th had this insane regular season mark. Not that that's happened in the past, I know, but this year with the depth of the performances being even greater than it's ever been in terms of quality, you're going to have more of those situations, I think, where people who are not in scoring positions, not all Americans who were, had ridiculously good regular seasons.
I mean, we might obviously this next weekend we'll see a lot more spark again with some athletes, but is it me? But Terrence Jones, who in January ran 6:45, we
Mhm.
haven't like heard from him, right?
He didn't run another
Should that
60.
be? Yeah,
He hasn't run another
is that
60.
kind of
Yeah.
weird? Oh, like how he runs world leading mark, and then ever since then he just
Well,
did.
yeah.
In January 14th, he runs that 6:45, and then 2 weeks later he's on a 4x4, and
Mhm.
then he's a DNF last week in a 200. Should that be of
Yeah.
concern? Should like Terrence Jones be maybe that be like a misleading
Well,
collegiate
I
leader?
moved him down. I have him because I put college kids on my overall rankings too, because it doesn't make sense to just pretend Trey Cunningham doesn't exist. Like that would be silly.
Yeah.
And I moved this week. I did move Jones down just because it had been so long since he ran that race. We obviously know that the video evidence points to him starting before the gun. Not to say he's not a good runner because he's run in that heat. He ran 650 low, so I still kept him up there. But yeah, I would be worried for sure. I mean, what do you have him number 1 still ahead of Makai Williams?
No, I have him two behind Williams. And Williams also
Yeah, and
hasn't really run much either. But
yeah,
I don't know.
it's tough. Man, ranking this stuff is hard because whatever standard you choose to apply to one event, if you do it to another event, things look really strange.
Yeah.
And I think it's even more so in indoors because the season's so short. Some people don't run. You don't know who's doing what. But you take the example internationally, ranking someone like Cole Hawker. Well, he loses to Cooper Tier in a time trial mile. So is Cooper, and I had him 6th. I mean, what weight do you put into that? It's like, do I put Cooper? Does that mean Cooper Tier is number 5, or does that mean Cole Hawker is number 11? It's like
Yeah.
there's so many judgment calls here. I mean,
Welcome to my world
I
of
put
ranking.
Yeah, I put Tier in the rankings, but I didn't drop Hawker much because my thing is, well, at least he's racing. A lot of these people, they'll run one time and that's it, and then they sit on that mark for a couple weeks. But I finally got rid of pretty much everybody who hasn't run just because there was enough quality performances to bump all those folks out. So events like the men's 800, you got a lot of big names missing. Women's 3K, women's 15. I take out Kip Yegon, take out Sifan Hassan, take out Laura Muir. It just totally reshapes how those things look. So then you have someone, you got Josette Norris moving up even higher because she ran. So you at a certain point you can only rank the people who are competing.
Yes. That's why our sport's weird. I mean, people talk about how to make the sport more popular. They're like, oh, incorporate a team element, have more domestic needs, all this blah blah blah, all this thing. If
Yeah,
you really just want to make the sport more popular, imagine if in order to be eligible for world championships, you have to compete like 30, like 20 times, like force the athletes to compete,
yeah,
but we don't do that
yeah.
because
See it more. Yeah, there's
yeah, I mean,
I just listed when I was going through all those one-on-one matchups that we're not getting at Worlds. I just listed 4 or 5 that would be fun to see, and that doesn't even mention the people who just didn't even run at all.
Yeah, and we are incentivizing athletes not to run indoors. There's an incentive not to run. Bowerman is incentivized to not go to USA's because they're incentivized to focus on doing a 10K time trial a week after USA's. They're incentivized to chase a standard. They're incentivized to care more about qualifying for an outdoor championship than an indoor championship.
Right.
Elaine Thompson-Herah is incentivized to shut it down and focus on outdoor. Everyone is incentivized to only care about 1 week of the year, which is in July in Eugene.
Mhm.
And that screws up the other 51 weeks of the year because we are saying the other 51 weeks of the year don't matter. Or maybe the other 50 weeks of the year don't matter. And if we want the other 50 of the weeks of the year to matter, you got to tell them you don't get to run in that big week unless you actually do something during the other 50 weeks. But we don't do that because, athletes can't handle racing too much. I mean, imagine if someone like Sarah Hall were to run the Tokyo Marathon and then the New York Half and then the Boston Marathon. Oh, the chaos.
Yeah.
She's going to fall apart. She can't do that. No, she can, and she will, and she is, which is what's great. So, athletes,
shout out Sarah Hall.
they run every day. Athletes literally run every day. So they can race more than racing is just running. That's what it is. You're running. So if you can,
It's supposed to be the most fun part of the sport too.
Yeah. Replace 15 of your workouts with a race, and then see what happens. You're not going to fall apart.
Advice there from Gordon Mack. We'll leave it there. Thanks to Travis for producing. Thanks to Colt for producing. Thanks to our sponsor, Hoka, CLOX. Check them out. Hoka.com. Faster forward. We'll be back on Friday. We'll do a big conference, NCAA preview. Also talk about the BU Last Chance meet and all the other events we got on tap for this weekend.
And
we'll
USA's.
talk to you guys next time. Oh, sorry, USA's. Whoops. Forgot all that USA's. USA's as well, too.
Oops. Oh, yeah.
My bad.
That's
I
happening.
knew there was something in there. See you guys.